Happy Tuesday and welcome to another episode of Hornets Daily, your one-stop shop for all things Charlotte Hornets. As always, we're presented by the good people over at FanArc, and I'm your host, Vance Ballard, but you know by now you can call me VB. I want to thank everybody for joining us out there, watching along with us. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment down in the comment section. You know how much we enjoy watching you guys interact, hearing some of your thoughts on what's going on the show. The bowl hypothetical from yesterday is getting a little bit of love down in the chat. Nice to see that picking up some steam as we continue to grow and build this Hornets Daily family here on the program. It's the 23rd of September. We're officially just 7 days away from the start of Hornets training camp. The regular season is right around the corner. It's almost basketball time, folks, and we've got some things on the docket for today. We're going to talk today about what success actually looks like in the 25-26 season. What do the Hornets need to do for the season to be considered successful? We'll talk a little bit about three metrics that the Hornets have to improve on in order to even begin to achieve that success, especially on the offensive side of the ball. The Ryan Kalkbrenner comparison that I got made yesterday, or that Charles Lee made, that we talked about yesterday, comparing him to Brook Lopez, is starting to pick some steam up, but how realistic of a comparison actually is that? We'll talk about that today. And then one writer has laid out his 5 steps to becoming a contender in the Eastern Conference for the Hornets. We'll start breaking those down kind of like we did the marquee wins last week. So we'll talk about the first of those 5 steps to wrap up the show today. We'll get into that later on. You know we don't beat around the bush here on Hornets Daily. Like to dive headfirst right into the program, and that's exactly what we'll do here today. Now, if you ask Hornets fans what success looks like this season for the 25-26 year, you'd probably get a handful of different answers. Obviously, a lot of those would come wins and losses. They need to improve on their number of wins. They need to get over that 30-win mark. Whatever it may be, they need to make the play-in, make the playoffs. Whatever it may be, you may get several different answers in terms of what success looks like for the Hornets this season. But as much as wins and losses do matter, I don't think they're the full measuring stick for the Hornets this season. I know that they are important, and I too fully expect the Hornets to increase their number of wins. I think that 30 is more than gettable for this team. But there are other measurables to use to look at for success. Matt Alaquiza has provided us with 3 things he thinks the Hornets need to do to improve this year to be considered successful. He says they need to have improved health across the board. They need to increase their offensive efficiency, and Charles Lee needs to show he is the guy for the job. Now, I'm not necessarily certain he hasn't already done that, but we'll talk about that right now. We know health has been the number one talking point all offseason for this Hornets team. We know about the injury history with LaMelo. We know Brandon Miller's returning from injury. We know Trey Mann is getting back healthy. We also are aware that Josh Green and Grant Williams are still sidelined with their injuries. So we've talked many times about health and the importance of that this season. But it's not just those guys. It's also the rest of the team. It's going to be crucial to keep them healthy as well, making sure Trey Mann stays that way, keeping Colin Sexton on the floor. The rookies need to be able to have their body in the right spot to stay healthy throughout the regular season. So it's going to be important for them to continue to work the way it sounds like the whole team has been working to improve their body condition and to stay healthy this offseason. And as well, as I've mentioned several times, the additions on this roster, the depth that has been added is going to, in my opinion, greatly increase the chances of everyone staying healthy for the majority or even the entire season. There will just be more guys to plug and play. Less wear and tear on the body is going to be required because of the depth that has been added for the Hornets. Now, getting through this season with the majority of the team being healthy, obviously it is the NBA, it's professional sports, there are going to be injuries. But if the Hornets can get through the season with the majority of this team being healthy, that in itself would be a win and would probably reflect itself on the court as well. We've also talked at length about the offensive struggles of Charlotte last season. We know that they did not shoot the ball very well. They were a very inefficient team on offense. So improving their offensive efficiency, which we'll touch on a little bit more later on, could be a major step towards the right direction, towards the actual improvement that this team is looking for. The offseason additions, as I mentioned, they were made to fix the offense. We brought in scorers like Colin Sexton, Spencer Dinwiddie, shooter like Pat Connaughton if he stays around. All of the rookies have their upsides on offense as well. They can all score the ball. Sion James and Ryan Kalkbrenner can shoot when necessary. So there is a lot of on-paper optimism about offense. And even Spencer Dinwiddie, in terms not just his scoring ability, but in terms of offensive efficiency, he is a proven veteran guard that can run an offense without committing a lot of turnovers, making a lot of silly mistakes. He knows how to command the offense if that is ever necessary as well. Now, picking up the pace is also going to be a key to improving this offense. We'll talk more about pace here in just a few minutes, but the added depth to the guard room should really help speed things up around the Hornets offense as well. Now, we talk about Charles Lee proving he is the guy for the job. Again, I think that's already been done. I think it's more than certain that he is the man to lead this rebuild into the promised land. I think he is the guy. Him and Jeff Peterson are a perfect combination. They work well with each other, and I think that Charles Lee is pretty safe in his job, kind of despite what goes on this season, unless it is just an absolute catastrophe. But prior to the injuries from last year, Charles Lee had the Hornets looking like a very strong defensive team. We know he is a defensive-minded coach, and that's his focus, and that's what he does. That's what he's built his reputation around in the NBA, and he had the team looking very strong on that end of the floor prior to all the injuries that took place last year. If he can get the healthy guys this year to do that all over again, and the young guys behind them to take steps forward on the defensive end, then the Hornets should drastically improve there as well, which will increase the offensive pace, which will increase the offensive efficiency. It'll all snowball and affect each other, affect other parts of the game that way. Now, while it's clear the Hornets got better offensively, at least on paper, it's unknown how good they can be on defense. The good news there is I think Charles Lee is the guy who can get more than expected out of his players on the defensive end of the floor. He can push them past the point of their actual abilities and even unlock things that players didn't know they could do on the floor defensively. He's also extremely good at putting guys in the right spot on that end of the floor. So if he can do all of that, if he can manage and have this Hornets team looking like a strong defensive team as well, especially before Grant Williams and Josh Green return, who are both going to make the Hornets defense a little bit stronger on that end. If Charles Lee can have the Hornets defense humming at that point, then I think he'll be even close. He's already proved it, but that will help answer any questions that anyone out there does have about his ability to lead this team, about him being the right guy for the job. Now, we talked a little bit about some of the metrics just a few minutes ago, but there are key metrics that the Hornets must improve on this season that were just bottom of the barrel, bottom of the league last year, and not going to be good enough. They've got to score much, much better. They have to, again, they were a very poor shooting team last year, but they've added the shooters on the roster throughout to improve that. So as long as they do what they do best, the shooting percentage for the Hornets should increase, which will also reflect the pace that we were talking about earlier. That is something that also has to improve. Last season, the Hornets ranked 23rd in the NBA in pace, which is a disastrous combination for a team that can't shoot. When you don't get a lot of possessions and you don't make the shots that you have in those few possessions, that again is a recipe for disaster, and you see where the Hornets ended up because of that. They've got to play faster this year and increase the number of possessions. That way, even if you aren't shooting at a super high clip or a super high level, you're still kind of counteracting that, canceling some of those out by getting more possessions, by being a faster team, by moving up and down the court at a better pace, for lack of a better word. Now, adding the quick ball handlers that they have added, again, Colin Sexton, Spencer Dinwiddie, Con Knippel, Liam McNeely, Sion James, all of those guys can handle the ball. Adding that will certainly help the pace. It'll take some of the pressure off of LaMelo to be the one moving it up the court and running the offense every single time. Now these guys can just snatch a rebound and get going, and that'll move the pace forwards as well. Can all move the ball up and down the court. They can handle it. They have good vision, good IQs, and they can pass the ball well. So if the Hornets can increase that pace from 23rd up into around the top 15 or so of the NBA, then I really think that's going to help them offensively as well, especially if they continue to struggle shooting the ball. Just taking more shots mathematically should increase their chances of scoring, which we all know they desperately need to do. Now, another metric the Hornets have to improve on is their assist ratio. Last season, the Hornets ranked 26th in the NBA in assists per game, and that too is just not going to get it done. That may be reflective of some of the guys' hesitation to kick it out to shooters as the season progressed, and we realized that they just weren't the best shooting team, but that should change this year as well. The floor spreading ability of the additions and the rookies that have been made on paper seem like everyone should have a lot more space to take their shots, and of course, as I mentioned, the guys who have been brought in are better at shooting the shots, so that should help as well. LaMelo, however, is going to be, in my opinion, the key to this particular metric improving or increasing for the Hornets. We've talked several times about his elite passing ability. We know he is a more than above average passer of the ball. It's just going to be about him utilizing that skill and trusting his shooters that he kicks it out to make those shots, or trusting his big men that he finds cutting toward the hole to make those shots as well. It's going to be important for LaMelo to not turn the ball over at as high of a rate as he did last year as well. And again, I think having teammates around him that he trusts will improve that number as well. So those are some metrics that the Hornets have to improve on in order for them to achieve even remotely a little bit of the success we talked about in our first segment there. Those two things kind of go hand in hand, and it is predominantly going to be on the offensive end of the floor, which is where the Hornets were not good, for just to put it bluntly, not good last year on the offensive end of the floor. I do expect that to change drastically this year. I think they're going to make humongous improvements on that end of the floor and the defensive end as well, but we shall wait and see. Now, if you remember yesterday's show, we talked about Charles Lee sitting down with the media for a luncheon and some of the things he said, some of the takeaways that came from that luncheon. But I told you one of the more interesting things I thought I read, or I said here on the show, was that Charles Lee feels like Ryan Kalkbrenner could be compared to a guy that could morph into a Brook Lopez type of player. Now, if Kalkbrenner is able to do that, that's pretty high praise for the rookie, but how realistic is it for him to actually be compared to Brook Lopez or morph into a guy like that, for example? On paper, it seems pretty doable. They're both 7'1". They're the same. They're the same size. There's not a lot of weight difference between the two of them. They have the same type of body types. And so, you could even make the argument that Kalkbrenner is starting out at an advantage on Brook Lopez on the defensive side of the ball, as he is coming in relatively known for his defensive ability, and it's pretty assumed that Ryan Kalkbrenner will be just fine on that end of the floor from the jump in his rookie year. The differences start to fall here, but with the current Brook Lopez, that's why the comparison, it's not crazy. I think it's pretty realistic, to be honest. We'll get to that. But it could be confusing a little bit because the current Brook Lopez is a legitimate three-point threat. He is a plus 35% shooter from beyond the arc. It's getting up close to 40%. And he is, like I say, a legitimate threat, someone you have to guard, someone you can't let stretch the floor on you. But that was not always the case. He didn't really start trying to shoot threes or become a three-point threat until his last season in Brooklyn. And so it was a slow grind getting him to that three-point shooting threat position, or getting him to hit that shot with consistency. That's something I think Kalkbrenner may have the advantage on from a rookie standpoint as well. We've heard himself say that the coaches have told him to let it fly if he's got the open look. We know Kalkbrenner can already shoot the three pretty well. He kind of took the Brook Lopez path at Creighton, where he came in as a freshman not shooting the three ball, but by the time that he left as a senior, he was a threat in the college game from beyond the arc. So it's very possible for him to develop that shot here in the NBA as well, which could be a very good thing for the Hornets and potentially make Kalkbrenner kind of dangerous, to be honest. If he can hit that three with consistency, if he can be that rim protector on the defensive end of the floor, then the Hornets will be elated with that. They'll be over the moon with the development, with the performance they're getting from Ryan Kalkbrenner, and he may find himself carving out a bigger spot in this rotation sooner than we thought he would. I know we've talked about that a little bit and the impact he's going to have, and just by happenstance, because the center position is so thin right now for Charlotte. But that could also open some things up for a guy you all know that I like, and that's Moussa Diabate. If Kalkbrenner does develop into a legitimate center and he can play some starting minutes at that position, that will allow for Moussa to move back down to his natural 4, and those two guys on the floor together will probably not leave a lot of rebounds for the other team. They would also be a very good group defensively when it comes to protecting the paint, so that could, again, help if Ryan Kalkbrenner can develop into that. But back to the Brook Lopez thing, again, I don't think it's a crazy comparison. I think it's honestly something he could definitely get, a point he could definitely get to. Now, Lopez has been an all-star in the league, so I'm not saying they're anywhere remotely close right now, but from a rookie standpoint, I think that Kalkbrenner has some advantages in his game over where Brook Lopez started, and he can get to where Brook Lopez is now, which would be a massive, massive win for the Hornets, as they desperately need a center for the long term. And if Ryan Kalkbrenner can turn into that, then it will be another win for Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee in this 25-26 or in this 2025 draft in the 25-26 season. Now, if you remember last week, we've talked a little bit about Colin Keen's marquee matchups, some big wins potentially that the Hornets could get to put themselves on the radar. We broke it down. There was 5 of them. We broke it down throughout the show. And much like that, with our next subject, that's what we're going to do again this week. Zach Roberts has laid out his 5 steps to Charlotte becoming a contender in the Eastern Conference. He thinks that if they do these 5 things over the next few years, that contention could be right around the corner for the Hornets. We're going to talk just about step 1 today. As I mentioned, we'll break down the rest throughout the rest of this week as the shows unfold. But step 1 is pretty plain and simple. It sounds a whole lot easier than it actually is, but it is basic. It is step 1, get better this year. Now, again, I know that sounds simple, but it is easier said than done. But on paper, you have to admit that this problem has already been taken care of. The depth that's been added specifically to the guard room, the draft picks, the returning of Trey Mann, the re-signing and getting him back cleared to play. Grant Williams' return is looming. Josh Green's coming back. Moussa Diabate, Tajan Salan have taken the steps forwards from last season to get better and improve their play. Miles Bridges is still there as a 20-point-per-game scorer. He's not as talked about as the rest of this bunch. I know we've mentioned him a lot this summer on the show, but he seems to be kind of sliding under the radar, which may be a good thing for Bridges in terms of his performance this year. But again, a 20-point-per-game scorer, he's still sitting there as well. So again, on paper, you've got to think that the Hornets getting better this year has already been taken care of. But that doesn't always mean it's going to mesh on the court, and if that is the case, if the Hornets are as bad or worse than last year, then that could potentially put this entire rebuild in danger. If for some reason Con Knipple does not mesh with Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, and he doesn't seem to be what the Hornets thought they were getting out of him, that could bring this whole plan crumbling down. And Charlotte will have to take a big step back, look at everything they're doing, and realistically restart this whole process. So that's why it is as vital as it is for the Hornets to put a better product on the court this year. Now, I'm not saying they need to be contenders this year. I don't think they're going to be contenders this year. Again, I do think the play-in is a very realistic thing if the Hornets play well and things go the right way. But if they don't put a quality product at all on the floor, if they're as bad, if they're worse than last year, if they can't get to 25, 30 wins, if it's just not passing the eyeball test, and things just don't look like they're going right, as fans, we can kind of feel that part of it too. from the outside looking in. If all of those things add up, then the hope and the optimism that is surrounding this team currently, that's surrounding this young core, that's excited about this rebuild, excited about this culture change, all of that is going to be extremely hard to maintain if the Hornets can't put a good product on the floor. Now, I'm not saying any of this to say that I think they won't put a good product on the floor, because I believe in Charles Lee. I believe in some of the players that we have, and I've decided to go all in with the organization and be higher on the center position than the rest of the NBA media or the NBA outside world. So I think that it is going to be a better product. I think the Hornets are going to get better this year. But if they don't, we all do know what is at stake, and we could be right back where we started as Hornets fans, at the bottom, trying to figure out if there's ever a chance of getting out of the basement or out of the lottery. Well, again, that's just the first step that Zach Roberts laid out for his steps to contention. We'll talk about the rest of them throughout the week here on the show. But that's going to do it for today's episode. As always, thanks for watching out there, joining along with us. Be sure to smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Trying to get this thing to 400 subscribers, then we can move up to 5, 6, 7. We'll continue to grow this Hornets Daily family here on the program. Leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you think about some of the things going on the show today. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow with a brand new episode of Hornets Daily.